Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have Leya Glazer with us today. Leya will be talking about her experience with both the NASM CPT exam and the AFA Group X exam. Now, our audience is eager to hear the inside scoop on your test experience. But first, Leya, do you want to share a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Okay. Hi, I'm Leah. I'm a freshman in college right now. I just finished my first semester, and I'm also I go to UT Dallas, so I'm on the golf team right now. I'm a biomedical engineering major, a computer science minor, and I'm also doing pre-med, so I'm very into STEM. I love fitness. I got into fitness a few years ago, and since then I've just loved it. I feel like it's like a necessary part of my life. It just gives me so much joy. And I decided to get my NASM certification, and so I met Ashley, and she helped me get it. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great. And there are so many tips, just advice, inside guidance that you have, in particular for Gen Z, because I think one thing that just stood out about you immediately to me was that how responsible you are. Just like really responsible, really organized, very dependable. A lot of great life skills that I think are a little bit harder to cultivate nowadays. So I think like working with you was almost like a time machine. It was like going back in time. So it was just so refreshing to be working with someone as young as you are who is already really successful, focused, dedicated, but that you still then are bringing with that all of these things that only Gen Z can bring, right? Like the understanding of social media, of marketing, of things that people, myself and older, have to study, right? Like the world that you have lived in, coupling those two things together is dynamite. So I think you're going to have like lots of really good tips to share with our audience. All right. So first, before we get underway with talking about the test, why don't you share kind of why you were interested in getting studying the NASM content to apply with golf and how that has played out for you.
Okay, so I mean, in the past, I've worked with like golf trainers who do a lot of speed stuff. But for me, I think that the people I've worked with, they've done a good job. But golf is an interesting sport because I don't feel like golfers are always in the like optimal shape that they can be in. And so I wanted to bring something like new to the sport, which is, not only being able to hit the ball far, but also being in good shape and taking care of yourself. And, I when I started golf, it's a lot of walking and, I would get out of breath and everything. So being in shape and getting into nutrition and fitness had really really helped me with being able to even just like walk the golf course rather than like getting out of breath after 18 holes. I could easily do 36, and in fact I did this semester. When I played college golf, I played 36 holes 2 days in a row and it was interesting. My team struggled a little bit, and my coach was kind of upset about that. But, I definitely didn't feel fatigued because, being in shape and, doing cardio and everything that we didn't really do in the weight room um, really gave me like a leg up in that situation. So.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I have done a lot in the golf world too. I write strength and conditioning programs for college golf teams. I have TPI certification, and I was kind of a tough sell on it in the beginning, but I really came around because it is like I love science-based training, and this is it. Like this is science-based training in a vacuum because you have so much control of the output. There are not all of these other external variables, like you're not going to have contact, like all of these things. Like you really can control this down to a T, and I love the exact science of it too. So it's like you're saying, of like one of the things that I never really considered before getting into the golf world was that there is so much walking, right? That there is a cardio component to this that you don't really think about. So that needs to be an integral part of your training. Yeah, so it's really interesting that you brought that up. So you did notice a difference between your own conditioning and your teammates.
Oh yeah, and I mean not only are you walking, but if we and I prefer to carry. You can carry or you can use a push cart, and I most girls use a push cart. Just I don't. That's how in my experience it's always been. I've played in tournaments with guys and girls, and the guys almost always carry. Like it's like masculine. If you're using a push cart, like oh my gosh, how could you?
Yeah, yeah.
But the girls always push. I prefer to carry. I don't know. I think it's easier. It definitely is easier. You don't have to like walk around greens and walk around water. You can just go over the bridge. But it's, like 50 pounds added to your back. So you have to, especially for 36 holes, or you're doing, 3 or 4 days in a row. If you're not in shape, then you're going to struggle. And it's going to, ultimately you're going to get tired, and then that's going to affect your performance. So.
Yeah. So how did you find applying NASM's model to be helpful with your outcomes with golf, whether it was like, your long drive, your speed, any of these things?
I think that more than anything with NASM, I think that fitting in training with um, the lifting program in college was really helpful because, you're doing golf specific stuff in the weight room. We're doing it twice a week, 7 o'clock. Um, but the rest of my team, the rest of the week, they're not doing anything. And I think that it's really important. I don't feel like you're going to get stronger and you're going to be in the best condition if you're not doing like a little bit of something almost every day, whether it's like, you know, I mean, I would consider what we're doing with the team power stuff or, just golf specific stuff, but we're not really doing the strength stuff that you really need to be doing, or even like functional stuff, stretching, anything. You're not doing that with the team. So that's stuff that I had to figure out how to do on my own, and also like make sure that's a priority and make time for it, because being in college and being an athlete is just very, very busy.
Yeah, you have a lot to juggle. That's exactly what I was thinking too, is that even if you watch the best golfers in the world, a lot of times there are issues, there are flaws in their mechanics, right? That they're not sequencing in the right order, that it's limiting the power output because the mechanics are off, right? So
Yeah.
what we do, what you know, what I know, what everybody who's NASM certified knows is how to assess them to figure out where this chain is breaking down. So it might be something as simple as like the intermuscular coordination, they have a weak core, right? So when they're trying to
Mhm.
transfer the power from the lower to the upper body, it's breaking down a little bit. And then we're going to see like the faulty mechanics. And that's where like a lot of, especially amateur golfers, like I think you and I have talked about this before, that it's kind of comical that the sport that has become the most mainstream after people stop competing is golf, but there is such a high risk of injury if you're not doing it correctly, and hardly anybody's doing it correctly.
Yeah, like especially I've seen, especially in college golf, I see in the weight room, we're not warming up properly sometimes. People are going to get injured, or we're not like being watched close enough. So, people are doing things incorrectly, or they're, you know, I'll see things that I learned in my NASM studying that I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you're doing this, but you really, that means that this is weak or whatever. So, seeing that, I'm already noticing so much about it. And I think the other thing is I was told a lot this semester, if you're training twice a week with the team, you shouldn't be doing anything else. Like we can't focus on getting stronger during the season. That's like off season. And I personally disagree. I'm not saying like go lift like super heavy every day, but
Yeah.
I don't think that, we should go in and like do stuff that's not going to make us stronger. Like I do think that you can get stronger while you're in season.
Right,
So
right. Like
I
stronger in a different sense, not measured in like absolute strength output.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. And coming back to this idea about the power, one of the things that I really love about golf too is like the best long drivers in the world at that moment of contact, they have produced so much power that their feet leave the ground. So I think like it's the perfect example of showing why your vertical height is connected to every sport, right? But in golf in particular, you won't associate that naturally because your feet typically don't leave the ground, right? But sometimes if there is so much power produced, your feet are going to leave the ground. So you can
Yeah.
see how, even if you're not jumping, how important it is to have the skills to be able to jump high.
Yes, for sure. That's why I mean in a lot of the golf trainers I've worked with, we've done a lot of box jumps, jumps with rotations, anything like that.
Yeah,
So,
great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you're going to do with your cert. So I know you're super busy with all of your majors and golf, and there's not much free time. But once we get around to the summer, are you planning on using your certification for work?
Yes, I would like to start working in the summer. I haven't been able to this year, obviously, because, the team is basically all day long, and then when you're not practicing, you're studying, so
Yeah.
that's how that goes. But in the summer, I definitely want to start using my certification, and I'm really, really excited because, like I said, like fitness is such a large part of my life now. So I do it every day, and I'd love to help other people. So,
Yeah, great. And one of the things too is like I think that gets overlooked is that when people are doing this, typically it's for their career, but you're not really thinking about yourself. But like think of everything we've talked about to this point. It's just how it has benefited you personally and in the application with your sport that it's not even about making money, that just knowing this information changes the whole trajectory of your life. Right. Okay. So let's talk about your experience with either test, both tests, however you want to do it. Were the tests what you expected them to be?
okay, so before I worked with you, I actually did take the NASM, the CPT one, and I did not pass that one. So that's when I found you. I didn't take the group fitness one before that. So I worked with you, and then the test initially when I took it the first time, I was very surprised at like how much information you actually had to remember. You had to remember all the details. The OPT model was like huge. You had to understand it. Like you couldn't just memorize it. You actually had to
Yeah.
understand it. And I think that even if you were to like just get by and pass it, if you don't understand it, then that just doesn't benefit you in the future anyway. You're not going to be a good trainer. You're not going to be able to actually like notice what your clients are doing, help them, make sure they're not getting injured, all that stuff. Like you you can memorize it, but that's not going to help you in the future. So the test when I took it after I worked with you, yes, I did really well. Because I actually understood everything. I was very confident going in the second time, but yeah, it was a lot of the questions aren't easy. They're very, very detailed. There's like trick questions where you're like, I don't know if it's this one or this one. And then the group fitness, well, I mean, I had studied for the CPT, so I knew I was pretty much ready for the group fitness.
Yeah.
There was a little bit more, but like the majority of it was there was a large portion that was also in the CPT, so I felt pretty good for that one.
Yeah, it's nice to do it in that order. Start with the CPT and then do the AFA Group X next
Yeah.
because there is so much overlap. Okay, so you came up with like a lot of really good points there. I think that's how a lot of people come to tutoring. They try it themselves, and then there is the shock of the exam the first
Yeah.
time. And I think for everyone that has had a negative experience or is afraid of taking the test, like look at Leah. Leah right now is a student, medical, biomed, engineering, right? Like all of these things that you're really well suited for, that we know you're going to be wildly successful later on, after you earn your degree. And it was still hard. I think like
Yeah.
same thing for me, like with my background in biology, that when I studied it, I was like, this is really hard. So I think for the people that have no background in science, that don't feel like they have a natural aptitude for science, it's even more uphill. So I think there's an even greater need to learn the material, like you said, that it's not just what gets lost in this is that the test isn't just to pass. The test is for you to enter the field being proficient in the knowledge that the test was on. So just getting by is not going to set you up for long-term success. Yeah,
Yeah.
really good points. Really good points there. Okay, so if you could kind of go back in time, what information would you share with yourself about the test now having taken it two times?
Okay, well, I mean, I think initially before the first test, I want to say there's really not anything that I really could have done because you don't really know what to expect on the test. You're given all these lessons, you're given all this information, and it's a ton of information. I know I spent hours reading, like I spent a whole year reading that material and I didn't pass that first exam.
Yeah,
So I don't know how much I really could have prepared for. I'm sure I could have, but you don't know what's going to be on the exam. There's no like I don't really know that many practice exams out there, so or like what you would expect. But after when I started working with you, I think that maybe just like I started to trust myself. So Just know that if you prepare, then you're gonna be fine. But I mean, the information that you gave me and the way that you explained like the OPT model and all the stuff that we went through definitely helped in a way that if I were to try and do it on my own like I did the first time, it's not you're not going to be able to have that preparation. It's just so different having someone who's like seen the like behind the scenes of the exam and knows what is going to be on there and what you need to understand not only for the exam but like moving forward.
Yeah,
Because
so
there were
that
things that you would mention that you're like, well, you should know this, or by the way, like this is something, or whatever. And it wouldn't be on the exam, but it was just good to know. So,
Yeah. So, okay, that made me think of two things. The first one is that the way it's set up now, you have to teach it to yourself, right? So,
mhm,
like, think of what you're doing now. You couldn't become a doctor by teaching yourself, right?
yeah,
So, it's like this is the same thing that I think that's the key thing that is kind of missing, especially for the auditory learners. Like, how many times did we have on our homework list, listen back to this session, where it's that repetition of the exposure that you could just kind of keep building on your knowledge of it, where if there's no lecture to draw from, you can't do that. So there's like the trying to teach yourself component, but I think also it is so much information without having the right context. So for me, like I think NASM's a great fit for people like us because we are systematic thinkers, right? Like I like everything to have rules and a structure, and this is, this is where it goes. And the test is like that. Our training with NASM is like that, but the test is also like that. They're just not communicating that effectively. So it's like understanding for each section how many questions are coming out of this. For your own personal test strategy, how many questions of those are you trying to get right? So then it takes the pressure off of you in the sections that you're not going to be stronger. So for a lot of people, that's the basic science section where they keep putting so much time, right? It is like what I call the black hole of NASM, where you just keep dumping more and more time in without really getting anything out of it. But that time could have been spent really productively on the bigger sections where it's going to be like the exercise library, program design questions. So I think it's always like seeing it and then being able to put into context. Okay, I'm struggling with this. How important is it really? Is this really worth my time? And if I sacrifice a few points here, could I make up more
yeah.
points than that with the same amount of time working elsewhere?
You know, it's also so interesting because when you teach yourself something, like I did online school for 3 years, it was very similar situation where you're not watching videos, you're just well, I mean they have videos, but you're just reading out of a textbook and you need to teach yourself. When I went to college, I was like, whoa, why did I do online school for 3 years? Like learning from someone is just so different and it's so beneficial and having you to help me with that was just it was so different, but it was like what helped me pass the exam because, just learning from a textbook is just so different. And I don't feel that they communicate the information in the best way, not only just like to pass the exam, but like moving forward, I would not know what I know now. So,
Yeah, like knowing how to apply it, right? And you know what is so funny? But I've had every version of the NASM textbook for like the last 5 editions. The one that I took when I got certified, the cover fell off of the textbook afterwards because of how many times I opened it after the test, right? Like it wasn't during the test
yeah.
that ruined it was after. But the nice thing was like once you actually understand it, then the textbook becomes helpful. But like trying to teach yourself from the textbook, it's like it's almost impossible. And I think a lot of people in our field um just kind of they blame it on themselves. They think like, oh well, everybody else must be having a better experience. This is because I'm not good at science. This is because I'm not a good test taker. Like all of these things, they end up putting it on themselves, and it's not like that's not where that is should be assigned to. So then I think it kind of like prevents them from finding the right solution to the problem because they are not correctly even identifying the problem as something being outside of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that. I was really confused after my first exam because I personally am a good test taker. I took exams
Yeah.
all semester, and I did great. So I know that I was a good test taker, but I was like, there's so much information. How do I sort through this? How do I know? Like, and it's not even knowing what you need to know for the test, but actually understanding what they're saying because there was just so much, and you're like, what the heck
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah. And for the people that are not really good at test taking so far, they have a hard time trusting me in the beginning, but I say you will be by the end, right? I feel confident. Like there's a reason we have over 95% pass rate. And it's because during the program, with every section, when you're doing the practice questions, you don't realize it, but you're also being taught how to take a standardized test. So for someone like you, we're able to just breeze through those, right? Because that piece has already come into place. But for someone else that has never been taught it, or is just like, I think there's only, my estimation is like maybe only 5 to 10% of people are like naturally wired for standardized tests. The rest of the people doesn't mean that they're bad at it. It just means that they need to be taught how to apply
Yeah.
that skill. So like that's happening the whole time. So it's really interesting because it's like we're talking about the content for the test. We're also talking about the content for the field. And then at the same time, we're talking about applying that content to make sure that it's coming out, that you understand it, that it's coming out correctly by getting those questions, getting those points on the test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So the big topic that I want to talk about with you today is being Gen Z, because you are on the younger side of Gen Z. And I find you to be like just a shining example for the whole generation for the reasons that I mentioned when we started. I think like you're just really you're clear on what you want, you're focused, you're responsible, you're dedicated. Like we were doing this, I felt I felt bad for you that you were like preparing to take this exam your last weekend before college. So where a lot of
Yeah.
other people are thinking about like enjoying those last few minutes of not having a lot of responsibilities, you had opted to take on a huge responsibility. So do you see yourself as the way that I see you as like kind of a little bit different than what is happening with most young people in your generation?
I mean, for sure, because, I just finished my first semester finals. It was crazy for me because I had not taken finals before. And now my last final was on Tuesday. Monday, I started my winter term classes. And, like it's really my life is nonstop, but it's something that I enjoy. I just
Hmm.
like to be busy. I like to constantly be learning something and challenging myself. If I'm not, I just get really bored. So I just like to constantly improve myself, and it doesn't even matter if I find something interesting. I just like to learn new things. So,
Yeah, and it was also, I think, very perceptive to realize that getting this now is really to your benefit because you can make it work for you however it's going to fit in over the next couple of years. And then maybe you become a trainer after that, maybe you don't, maybe you integrate it into the other things, maybe you don't. But even just for these next couple of years, when you have the opportunity to apply this, what you're going to be able to command, like the rate that you can earn, is going to be much higher and much more enjoyable than if you did something like, maybe just a couple hours like at a fast food restaurant. So did
yeah.
that come into your thinking at all?
Well, for me, the having the NASM certification, it really wasn't about, oh, I want to have some extra money or
Hmm.
whatever. It was really about I want fitness to be a part of my life because it's important to me. How can I integrate that into, you know, like benefiting from it, yes, like by having some kind of job or something with it, but also being like, if I have a job in fitness, then I will continue to do fitness every day, make it part of my life and
Oh, okay.
prioritize it. So, that was something that I talked to my mom about. I was like, I love fitness. What can I do with it? Especially if I go to med school or whatever, like you can train. People want to train before work. You can train at 6 a.m. You can train after work, you can train at 7 o'clock. So it's really perfect for me because you never know what my hours of like what I will be doing will be. So, you
Okay,
know,
great. So it's like you found the right opportunity for yourself. And I think that is one of the big messages that I want young people to know is that, do you hear this a lot? Like I hear young people being told that there are not opportunities anymore. That it's like that they've been born into this generation where like the American dream is no longer possible. And it breaks my heart because I think it's possible in a different way, maybe than it has been in the past, that there are unique challenges that your generation is facing, but the opportunities do exist. So do you want to, like, maybe if anybody needs that encouragement, not coming from me because I can't speak to it personally, but someone like you that is carving a successful path already professionally at such a young age, what would you say if people say there are not opportunities for us?
I've been told like everything's been done, there's nothing new to create, to invent. There's no opportunities left to be successful. And I just don't think that's true. I think that there's always things that we can, like as an engineer, there's always things we can create or improve, even if they already exist. There's always opportunities, but you have to go out and find them. And not only like it's funny because everyone always says, what career do you want? Oh, that career makes a lot of money. For me, I just want to do what I love. And so finding stuff that I love is, especially being a freshman, like it's so awesome. I discover new things every day. And for NASM to be um like something that I decided to do, it's really really cool because I created an opportunity that I feel like so many people my age, like they don't know what it is. They would never even think about it. Like I don't even think that fitness is like a large part of my generation, at least at my school, or really anyone that I've met in my generation. They're not very much into fitness anymore. And I'd love for people to get more into it because I think it's just such a crucial thing to have in your life, like for your mental health, for your physical health, for everything. And I mean in college too. Um, we're sitting inside all day. I mean, I go to a school that I'm an engineer, so we're sitting and we're studying all day long. So just getting out and doing something like strength training, something for an hour is so good, like mentally. So
Yeah, and there are so many different directions you can go with it. I think that's what a lot of people, and this is everyone, this is not just Gen Z. There is this kind of like sentiment that it's not a sustainable field, right? And I think like a lot of people that get into it that follow the traditional path of work on just like a big box gym floor and then have to deal with all of the issues that happen there. And like this is a universal, right? Where people cancel, you have to sell really hard, you got to work the floor. Like there are, I think some of the most fun I ever had was when I was really young and training and broke and like it was just like just the joy of doing it. But that stuff was also happening at the same time. But it's like where you can go from that. Like the options are endless. And I think especially like the kind of studying that you're doing, what I see is going to be like a lot more integration between fitness and medicine, like the medical
yeah,
fitness
oh, yeah.
intersection. Um, so I think like the opportunities for that are boundless. And what's really great there is you can be connected into insurance. You can do things that are contract based. So you're not always having to sell. Like one of the things that I just wanted to get out of in the beginning was like that having to sell. So there are ways then like you just have to figure out after I get a little bit of experience, how can I work smarter? How can I make more money? Right? Like all of the things that like and then it's going to take you in these different directions that you can specialize in totally different things, right? Like think of people that are working with bodybuilders and then people that are doing an older adult class for bone density, right? This is the same field. It's super cool. You can also be working in an academic way. So, like for me, teaching on the college level and beyond has always been very central. And then the accreditation and helping people with operations, like all you can get into the business side of this, right? And then also like think of the people that are doing things wildly successful on social media, right? They're
Mhm.
all like there are so many different shapes that this can take. And like you mentioned, the flexibility. There are not a lot of fields that offer this degree of flexibility. And it comes with some challenges too. But like you can go in and out of it, right? You can, and the nice thing is like because you have been just so successful and like I think you lead with your character and integrity that I know that before you even got certified you had people offering you could teach here, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a really good thing where like you if you are I think leading your life authentically, then other people are going to be attracted to that so that no matter what field you go into, like that's going to open up opportunities on its own.
And it's also so interesting because, even though I haven't been able to work because I've been so busy, my teammates, if we're only training twice a week, they have asked, they're like, can we work out with you?
Yes.
Because they knew that I was training and that they were only allowed to go into the weight room, like the UTD weight room twice a week. So they're like, can we work out with you? Because we don't want to sit around all day for, like the 5 days. And like, we want to get stronger. We want to get better. We see what you're doing and we want to learn. So, even though I haven't been able to work, I have been able to, do a little bit of, helping other people and also working on my strength and my goals. So
Yeah,
it's been
absolutely.
really, really fun.
Yeah, and I think like that kind of direct experience, especially now that you're competing on the college level, there aren't many people that can offer that, right? So again, like where I hear a lot of young people think that age is going to be considered a strike against them. It's not. I think as long as you know how to conduct yourself professionally, that you can be dependable in the workplace, age, a young age is in a lot of ways, I just think it's a great asset. So let's say that any of our listeners do want to connect with you, either for golf related things, maybe like help with their swing, training, you want to assess, anything like this, or just remote training in general. How can they reach you?
My LinkedIn is just Leya Glazer, Leya Glazer. So yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn and I'll respond. So
Okay, great.
I'd love
Yeah.
to talk to people.
Okay, good. We'll put your info below too, so that people will know where to contact you.
Okay.
Yeah. So on my end, what we're talking about is the CPT program. So if you want to get NASM certified, we have that program that has over 95% pass rate, money back guarantee. So we do like we've been talking about 37 hours of video instruction. So you go through it like a college course, all the test prep things, 750 practice questions, full practice test, all of that is there. So reach out to me anytime if you have questions about that. And now that Leah is certified, she's going to have to, like all of us, every 2 years recertify to keep the certification active. So NASM has their own CEU classes, but they also have approved CEU providers. So if anybody is listening that is already certified and is interested in studying more of the science-based program design that we talked about, we offer a NASM approved CEU program. Okay, so Leah, I hope that you will join us again soon. It has been such a pleasure to have you with us, and we can't wait to hear what happens next in your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. And I would just say, like, I 100% recommend working with Ashley. She is amazing. She's the best, and she has such great advice. So she's helped me out so much.
Oh, thank you. And I think for anyone in the future in any field, whether it's going to be fitness, medicine, or anything else that you choose, like having you is going to be nothing but an asset.
Thank you.
Thanks.